We begin our program in Sudan, where the ongoing civil war has left millions displaced and tens of thousands dead. Half of the population, that's about 25 million people, now face severe hunger in what the UN calls the world's largest food and humanitarian crisis. We'll hear shortly from the World Food Programme's Assistant Director on this situation. But first, this report on Sudan's community kitchens that have become lifelines for survival. They are run by volunteers, but since the US cut aid funding in January, more than half of these kitchens have been forced to close.
It's exactly 3 p.m. and with bowls in their hands, people pour into this neighborhood in Omdurman. Their kitchen, run by local religious leaders, starts serving free meals to anyone in need. Kamal Bashir never misses a day.
If you didn't have this place, what would happen?
I just be angry, hungry all the time.
This kitchen serves thousands of meals every day. Most of the people that come here have been displaced. Like this woman, she had to flee her home because of the war.
Where I was, there was nothing at all. It was only when I arrived here that I found this kitchen. There was no longer a market, and then we have no money, no one works.
The system of community kitchens has developed throughout the country, allowing hundreds of thousands of people to survive. It is the volunteers who are in charge of getting groceries, sometimes at the risk of their own lives. Since the beginning of the war, 2 of them have been killed while out looking for food. This soup kitchen is entirely financed by a religious leader, Sheikh El Amin.
If this war were to last another 10 years, we would continue to do the same thing.
But many other kitchens rely directly on international aid. The UN says 60% of them shut down after President Trump suddenly cut US funding last January, and now the impact is being felt.
There used to be 2 pans, one here and the other there.
This community kitchen used to serve 200 meals a day.
Since American aid was cut back, there just isn't enough to keep everything running, so they've had to shut down some of the community kitchens.
Sudan is the only country in the world with a famine. 13 million people displaced, and half of them are children. This is Khartoum al-Buluk Hospital, the only one with a pediatric unit.
It's a ward for malnourished children.
Dr. Ahmad Kolari shows around. Here in this room are the most critical cases. The children here are between life and death. This boy is suffering from severe acute malnutrition. This is the case of little Amin, who arrived 2 weeks ago.
How is Amin? What is his vital data?
It's okay. He's recovering little by little.
Does he manage to take milk? He really was in a very critical condition. He's a little better. Sometimes the children have to stay here for 2 months.
These children are extremely vulnerable. There are only 3 beds for the most serious cases. The children next door are less malnourished, but still in need of medical attention. The department is stretched beyond capacity, at times receiving over 150 patients in a single day.
Sometimes we have up to 5 patients per bed. We have no capacity. Before, there was only room for malnutrition, that's all. Now we have a whole ward. In fact, we would have to build an extension in the hospital.
Leaving little hope for these victims as the war in Sudan rages on.
I'm now joined by Rania Dagash-Kamara. She is the Assistant Executive Director for Partnerships and Resource Mobilization at the World Food Programme. Mr. Dagash-Kamara is currently in Berlin meeting with officials and members of the German Parliament. Welcome to DW News Africa, Mr. Dagash-Kamara. We'll talk about your meetings here in Germany, but I want to begin by asking you about what is the world's largest humanitarian crisis, which is currently unfolding in Sudan. Nearly 13 million people are displaced inside the country. What are aid workers experiencing on the ground as they work to deliver aid to civilians in Sudan?
Thank you for making the time to see us, and thank you for asking the question. Sudan is today the largest crisis in the world that we have, and it's 25 million people who go hungry. We have teams across the country, and that goes for many humanitarian partners, WFP and many others. And we experience incredible challenges to be able to reach those across Sudan. Sudan is the only country in the world today that actually has a confirmed famine. And 2 nights ago, a convoy of ours and UNICEF's that was just outside Al Fashir in Darfur was trying to get in for the first time in a year. It was struck by an airstrike, and 5 of our colleagues died in that process. So it's a bit challenging in terms of our staff safety. It's challenging in terms of access and administrative constraints. It's challenging in terms of our ability to reach those who need our assistance so desperately. But we are there, and we continue, and we have continued despite this very difficult situation 2 days ago.
You mentioned that aid convoy that came under attack in Darfur. We also learn or are hearing that Port Sudan, which is a main route for aid into the country, is under attack. Just give us a sense of how this is really affecting your operations, trying to get aid in. Are you using alternative routes?
We actually use a lot of entry points for Sudan, and we use Port Sudan for the bulk of what comes in. We use the Chad route increasingly to bring aid into the Darfurs and the Kordofans. We also use the route through Egypt, and at times we are able to use the route from South Sudan. So we really use all possible corridors to try and reach the most desperate and hungry population in Sudan at the moment. But 2024 has been the deadliest year for many of the humanitarians. We lost 340 people across the world. That is the reality of where we serve, and we continue to be in every front line possible.
Ms. Dagash-Kamara, the global report on food crises warns of a massive drop. We're talking something to the tune of 45% in funding for food aid this year. And that's mostly because of the Trump administration's cuts to the US's foreign aid. Are you already feeling the impact of this as the World Food Programme?
You know, all of the donors that support the World Food Programme are generous with us, and the US especially has had generations of support to feed and save lives across the world. Germany is a massive leader in this space, and many of our other partners. Collectively, we are seeing a significant drop in humanitarian assistance, but for WFP specifically, it's a 40% drop from all of our major donors. This means that we are unable to reach people in many crisis locations. It means we have to cut our rations. It means we have to cut people in our targeting of who gets food and who doesn't. Do we take food from the hungry to feed the starving? Very difficult positions that we make in every crisis context. And we just have to be in less locations because there is a lot less resources.
As I mentioned earlier, you are in Berlin. You have been meeting with officials here. You noted that Germany has been a significant donor country, but even here the aid budget is being cut. Should Germany and others be stepping up at this moment rather than pulling back on aid?
You know, we say a hungry person has 3 choices in life. They can revolt, and that creates more instability in the world. They can move to try and find alternatives to their livelihood, and that includes migration or displacement, or they can starve and die. And in addressing the third one, in Germany continuing to be the principled leader in supporting food security, you stave off and make Germany safer. Food security is national security. A mother and her children who are safe in the Sahel or East Africa or the Middle East and are fed are definitely making Germany more safe and secure, because you reduce the amount of political turmoil in other countries by supporting food security, and you reduce migration or attempted migration because more opportunities stay in the countries where aid and assistance is provided. So we were very delighted when we saw the commitment from the coalition agreement that Germany would stay and support humanitarian aid and would continue to support foreign aid. And we do hope that they be and continue to be the principled leader that they are.
Rania Dagash-Kamara from the World Food Programme, we appreciate your time here on DW. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.